Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8, and this is going to be my review for episode 14 for this season, otherwise entitled Funeral for a Friend, and that's what the episode was. But of course, spoiler alert for everything that happens in this episode, especially towards the end, because there was especially one reveal I did not see coming at all, and I was like, whoa, what the hell are they doing here? I couldn't believe that that was one of the cliffhangers. One of them was expected, but I was curious to see if it was right at the end or somewhere else. But yeah, still spoiler for everything we go over in this video. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comments section down below your various thoughts, opinions, theories, predictions, everything like that. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, want to show your support, you enjoyed the episode, everything like that, want to drop a like on the video to show all that. So last episode was obviously the big finale against Deathstorm, the final plan to, put up against Deathstorm, probably is the best way to put it. With Caitlin quickly getting to the point where Deathstorm will convert her to being his bride. Like, pretty much we're getting right to that point. But Frost is enhanced to take on Deathstorm and absorb his power. But unfortunately, she can't contain the amount of power that she takes in from him. Deathstorm was able to contain it, much easier than her. And unfortunately, due to all this, she dies. And that's the big cliffhanger for the episode, which leads into this one. Now, this episode, as you'd expect, was a very, in memoriam, if you want to put it, episode. And I was sort of caught off guard by the way they went about in regards to, structuring the episode. But I think it worked better that way, just because you weren't constantly jumping back and forth between storylines. If you just focus on each character's thing, I think it allowed the episode to build up better to the end with the funeral and everything like that. I think it was the better way to do it, but it did catch me off guard because I didn't think that was the way they were going to go about it in this episode. And then, of course, that does lead into the ending of the episode and the two cliffhangers, which were a bit surprising. Now, we do start off the episode with Team Flash just amongst Central City in different parts in the aftermath of the death of Frost, trying to get back to their day-to-day lives. And even this opening bit was filmed very differently to a regular episode. Obviously, they spent a bit more time filming this portion of the episode, which, like the structure later on, caught me a bit off guard. But for Barry, a regular day means out in the city is the Flash. And we see this meta cyborg dude robbing a bank. So Barry is straight into action as the Flash again. There's no real straight after mourning period for him. He has to go right back into being a hero. Now, this villain has an exoskeleton from Ivo Labs. That's what we learn. That is powered by his emotion, sort of. And it's causing, he ends up causing a building to almost collapse, which keeps Barry busy, which unfortunately leaves Allegra and Cecile alone to deal with this villain, which isn't the best pairing, and it also isn't helped by Chester's lack of attention either. So it's an easy getaway for this villain, and we actually learned that this is actually Mark Desmond, aka Blockbuster from the comics. So it's a bit of a different take from Blockbuster from the comics. And this is the only part of the episode we see him in. Team Flash takes him on at the end of the episode, but it's done off screen. Now, I don't know if it was filmed and they didn't include it because there wasn't enough time for them to include an action scene in this episode at that point. And I don't know where you would have cut areas in this episode. So I don't know if they filmed something to include at the end of the episode, like a final action scene or not. I'm not too sure, but this is the only part of the episode we actually see this villain, unfortunately. Now, Caitlin is refusing to go to Frost's funeral, with Joe sort of advising the team that the pain from Frost's passing is just going to continue to cloud their actions and just prevent them from actually protecting the city properly, and more focusing on how to honor Frost. That's the way to go about him, or the way to go about it, with him using Frost's advice on painting that she gave him and how it's helping him sort of honor Frost and move on. Now, the episode, as I said, was structured a bit weird because it was split into character perspectives and how they go about honoring Frost following what Joe says here. And we do start with Iris, who wants to write an obituary on Frost for the Central City Citizen, but she actually gets one of her staff to write it who's more familiar with this type of writing, and the obituary comes off not the best because it sounds like someone that didn't know her at all. But this leads Iris to admit that though she knew Frost for a long time, she didn't actually know Frost. She didn't know Frost as a friend. It was just an acquaintance, sort of. So she felt the obituary wouldn't have come off authentic from her either, but Carla Tannhauser is able to push Iris in the right direction as to how Frost should be honored, and that's by showing how she protected and impacted the city by interviewing the people she crossed paths with on the Citizen podcast, which I think was a good way to do it. And then we move over to Allegra and Chester and their actions on honoring Frost, and they are sort of causing their own drama, trying to figure out things. They're like fighting over hummus, of all things. But they are drawn to the Irish pub where Chilblain is letting loose and struggling to deal with Frost in his own way. And Chester and Allegra actually honor Frost eventually by hanging the first jacket she wore that made her feel like a hero for the first time, alongside other members or other former members of Team Flash within Star Labs. But then we do eventually move over to Barry and how he's dealing with the passing of Frost. And you got to remember, this will be more heavy on Barry as well as Caitlin as well, which we'll get to. But with Barry, he's honoring Frost by finishing off the bucket list that Frost had, which was like starting with like building a snowman on the top of a big mountain. I'm not too sure if it was meant to be like Mount Everest or not. I couldn't really see on the list what it was. I don't know if it was meant to be Mount Everest or something like that. I'm not too sure. We see Barry doing like an ice sculpture, putting a piece of Frost's art, I think it was, in the Louvre. And we also see Barry smashing out a hot dog eating competition without speed eating, but he's still got that speed hunger, so it's a bit of cheating there. And of course, we saw Barry run into Chester and Allegra early in the episode after like kayaking or canoeing, whichever way you want to put it. Now, alongside Barry's thing, Chilblain does wake up in Star Labs when Barry has finished up his bucket list, where conversation around Frost starts, and Barry just doesn't really feel like he has actually honored Frost by finishing this list that she had. And thanks to this talk with Chilblain, Barry knows how to honor Frost properly, which Barry showcases in more ways than one. And this is when we finally see how Caitlin is going about things. And of course, this is the perspective filled with more sadness. As Caitlin lived with Frost, so of course is surrounded by constant reminders of Frost, whether that be photos, the paintings that Frost did, her clothes, or even just her general smell. And of course, just the absence of someone that was always there with her, and the sound of her, and the conversations that they have, everything like that, that's all been ripped out and that's gone in the eyes of Caitlin at this very moment. But Barry does come to talk to Caitlin as he is on his way to Frost's funeral, and Caitlin, still with her heels in the ground, is not wanting to go to the funeral. But Barry is sort of able to make Caitlin see what Frost would want her to do and how to move on with her life, which is not sitting down, moping around, sitting in your self-wallow. It's about getting out there and moving on. Now, we do have Frost's funeral with like Team Flash, like Kramer, Chilblain, they're all there. And some of the people that were interviewed early in the episode on the podcast, were in attendance as well. But right at the end, Caitlin does show up, gives her eulogy, and Team Flash does surround Frost's coffin around Caitlin as like a final goodbye. I was wondering if there were going to be like another, like they could spend more time at the funeral, but I think you get the point of it. I think the thing is that you have all this other conversations throughout the episode where you don't have to have them at the funeral either, though I'm sure they would have happened at the funeral off screen as well. But to finish off the episode, like it started, Blockbuster shows up again somewhere in Central City, and with Team Flash more focused, more put together, and minds not elsewhere, they're going to be a much more organized team, and it's going to be a much more organized takedown this time around. But unfortunately, as I said before early in the video, there's no footage of this. We don't see it. Now, I don't know if they filmed it. I don't know if it was structured this way, so the way they just go off and do it themselves because it's a quick takedown. There's no real need to show us. I'm not too sure. But yeah, we don't see it. However, when they go off, Caitlin calls someone, and we find out it's Chilblain. They meet at her apartment, where Caitlin has swiped some materials, including some of Frost's hair from the funeral. And with Chilblain's help, Caitlin is going to try to bring Frost back to life. And of course, I'm sure there won't be any issues here. No controversy, no drama. What the hell's going to happen here? Because the thing is, I don't see them going through all this thing with Frost dying, the build up to it, an entire episode dedicated around mourning her and the funeral and everything like that, only for her to come back. So my thought is this going to be in it? Like, is Frost going to bring something back to life that she didn't mean to? Or is it going to bring back an evil Frost that she can't control and that is going to be a villain? Or is it going to be something more that Caitlin infects herself once again with these Frost powers? I don't know which way they're going to go about it. I don't know how Team Flash, specifically Barry, and even maybe Joe, especially based off the end of the episode, how they're going to react to all this. This caught me incredibly off guard. This caught me more off guard than probably most of the cliffhangers this season, because I just didn't see them going this way, and I'm very curious to see where it goes, because I think it's not a good look on Caitlyn, because you think that she's crossed this line where she is going to move on, but she's gone the opposite way. Now, we don't know if this is like her inner Frost telling her to do this, or this is just Caitlyn herself. But I'm just incredibly curious to see where it goes, because I did not see this coming, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of positives coming out of it, just because they spent so much time mourning and honoring Frost that this can only go bad. Whether it's an actual bad Frost comes back, or just bad in more ways than one other than that. So I'm intrigued and curious and sort of nervous as well. But the final cliffhanger for the episode, the one I was expecting going into it, most people probably expecting, is Iris is working late at the Citizen, where she's talking to one of her staff members about, work. But all of a sudden, Iris disappears when her staff member comes back to ask another question shortly after leaving her before. So Iris is gone. She's disappeared, and we know that she's gone for like 4 episodes. We know that Iris is gone for there. So obviously the mystery is going to be about, for the next 4 episodes, or maybe not all 4 episodes, but some of them, I guess, or like it's going to be a subplot, how to bring Iris back and specifically what happened and everything like that. Obviously going to be curious to see how they write it. We know it's not like a natural storyline that they wanted to do, but it's a storyline that they are doing because of certain things. So yeah, let's wait and see how it plays out. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome. You could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions about everything we went over, your various thoughts on the episode. What do you think of the ending? What do you think is going on with Caitlyn and all that stuff? Do you think Frost is going to come back to life? If she does, do you think it's going to be in a bad way? Or do you think this is going to be some weird storyline they're doing which doesn't help Caitlyn, mentally? I'm very curious to see where it goes. And I'm very curious to hear what you guys think about that one. And yeah, let me know your thoughts down there in the comments. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.